Hello everybody. In this video I will show you how to use Excel to construct a group data table and also a histogram for this type of data. So we will be using the second tab in the file that you already have, master scores, and this one is talking about final scores of all players in the golf tournament in 2012. So we have 62 observations here and they're nicely ordered for us. And we need to construct this table that tells us classes with lower and upper limits and frequency for each class. So how do we do this? Well, we have the rule that says 2 to the k needs to be greater than the sample size. So in our case, 2 to the 6 gives us 64, which is greater than 62. So this is the number that we will be using. Okay, and we will be using this number to find the class width. And how we're gonna do it? We need to do the following. So we take the largest number in the set, and in this case it's 306. So you can either just type it in or highlight the cell, minus the smallest one, and we need to divide that by 6. Okay, so we get 4.66 repeating, and we're going to use a whole number, so you can either pick 4 or 5. In my case, I'm gonna go ahead and go with 5. Okay, oop, not 6, 5. Okay, so now that I know my class width, let me go ahead and fix this typo here. I need to come up with lower limit for each of the classes and upper limit. And we're going to start with the number that's the smallest in the set, so 278. And the difference between the consecutive lower limits should be 5. That is your class width, okay? Which means I can use Excel commands to do this computation for me. So that's the cell above plus 5, which in this case gives us 283. And then I'm gonna drag it all the way down to get my lower limits. Okay, so I have 278 as my lower limit for class 1, 283 for class 2, and so forth. Okay, you can check that the difference between consecutive lower limits should be 5. Then for upper limits, what do we do here? So the upper limit of the class above should be really close to the lower limit of the next class. And since we're dealing with numbers that are whole numbers, these are scores, this number would be 282. Okay, so you see that the difference between lower limit and upper limit is not 5, and that's a very common mistake to make, that you want to make this difference. It's the difference between the consecutive lower limits and consecutive upper limits. So now, if my upper limit is 282 for this class, that means my upper limit for the next class will be this number, then the one above, plus 5. Okay, and you see that 287 is exactly 1 away from 288. So now we're just going to drag it all the way down and have these classes. So I need to make sure that every observation from my data set falls into one of these categories, and it does, because my smallest number is 278. My largest number is 306, so it's going to fall into the last class, so we're good to go. Okay, so now you have 6 classes, and we're going to group our data, summarize it, and put frequencies in here. Okay, now because this data is relatively small, I'm just going to count how many observations I have for each class, and it's already ordered for you. So for the first one, it's all the values that fall between 278 and 282. There are 6 of them. Okay, then how many do I have between 283 and 287, including that's going to be 12 of them, and so forth. So I'm just going to fill in this table. 16, 6, and 1. Okay, now remember, these are numbers of observations, so we can always check if we've done this correctly by adding them all up, and if we've done this right, they should add up to 62. which is the number of players, right? Number of scores. Okay, so we did do it, right? Okay, and then relative frequency, this will give you the percentage, right? If you would like to see relative frequency, how we would do this, this is also a formula. You do equal frequency divide by 62, that's the number of observations. Okay, and then we can drag it all the way down to get, these are not percentages. If you would like to see percentages, though, you would just multiply this by 100, right? But we can also check if this is done correctly. All the frequencies, all the relative frequencies should add up to 1. So if we do equal sum and add all of these numbers up, we get 1, okay? So these are our numbers that tell us how many players scored in each category. So it looks like a lot of players, a really big percentage, scored between 288 and 297. Okay, so over 50% if you add these all up, scored in this range right here. Okay, so we only have 6 that scored lower. Those are the winners, right? So in golf, the lower the score, the better. And then we have some people here that scored high. Okay, so that is your grouped data table. Goal 1 is done. Now let's go ahead and construct a visual representation of this data. And how are we going to do that? Let me go ahead and remove this. You no longer need these numbers. We've checked, that works. Let's go ahead and go to data, data analysis, histogram. In the input range, we're going to put all of our numbers in here. Okay, that's done. And in the output range, in the bin range, we're going to put upper limit, including the title of this column, upper limit, okay? We're going to use labels, yes, for the output range. Just pick a cell where you would like this to be stored. Chart output, yes. Press OK. All right, let's see. I always check my numbers, and looks like one of them is a little off. I must have not caught one of the cells, so I'm going to fix this to 6. Okay, 12, 21, 16, 6, and 1. So that looks good. Okay, but this information, we would like to get rid of these gaps. So to do that, we're going to highlight the bars and going to go to Format Data Series. And over here on the left, you're going to see gap width, and just go ahead and make it 0. Okay, and now you have a nice chart that tells you what your data would look like visually. Okay, you can make it a little bigger. So let's make this final scores in 2012, and let's say golf tournament. Okay, so now you can see that there's this big chunk of players that scored between these two values, right? So 288 and 297. And of course you can customize it. You can make different colors, call your axis whatever you want. So this one, let's say these are scores, right? So these are scores. Put it anywhere you would like, but the idea is that you can also get rid of gaps. So in your previous video, we showed how to come up with a bar graph with gaps, but here we would like to eliminate gaps because these numbers are really close, right? Okay. All right, so histogram of group data is done. Okay, thank you for watching.